Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Talking with Tax Speaker podcast special. I'm here with Terry Bakker, one of our speakers. She's been in the business for a minimum, 35 years? Is that right, Terry?
38.
38 years in practice, and there's been a lot of changes going on in the tax world, especially with the IRS. There has been some crazy updates happening, and so we wanted to kind of get to the bottom of it and have a discussion over it. So Terry's been doing some research over the IRS the past about couple of weeks or so and has finally collected together and is ready to discuss on that subject. So Terry, starting off, there were roughly 6 to 7,000 employees laid off or seemingly MIA or just told not to come into work anymore. Who are these people? And can you go into that?
So, in conversation with the people who remain at IRS, out of the stakeholder liaison office, the 6 to 7,000 were pretty much concentrated in the collections area and in the exam area. So, what happens when an IRS employee is no longer with them is they are taken out of the system, which eliminates their ability, obviously, to get in, but it also eliminates anyone within the IRS's ability to figure out what they were doing or who their manager was. So that has started some consternation. I've spoken with other practitioners who had clients that were going through exam right now, and the examiner, the IRS stakeholder liaison, calls it disappeared. The auditor disappeared. And so it's been a struggle to figure out who the auditor's manager was so that the audit can be wrapped up, finished, etc. So the other area that has been hit is collections. So a lot of the newer employees that had, just finished training or were within training are no longer in collections either. So what we are recommending, if you have anyone who receives an examination notice or a collection notice, and you're actually working with a revenue agent or a revenue officer, make sure that the first thing you do is to get that manager's information, because if they are somehow terminated in the middle of your dealings with them, the manager is the person that you would have to go to. So get the manager's name and contact information first. So then we have the potential of losing a lot more IRS agents. So the IRS is basically saying, the stakeholder liaison was saying to us, if you have to call practitioner priority, if you have to call the IRS, call them now. Do not wait for a couple weeks or 3 weeks, etc. Make those contacts now, because hold times will be going up.
Wow. That's a pretty big change. That's a little worrisome. So speaking of helplines, what about the practitioner priority helpline? Are we seeing any changes there?
So in my last few conversations with the practitioner priority line over the past couple of weeks, I have not had much in the way of a service disruption. I've had a couple of phone calls where they've answered without having to go listen to the whole, hey, you're going to be waiting. So right now, again, because we all have nothing better to do than hang out on the phone with the IRS right now. So unfortunately, I just don't know what the phones are going to be like after the busy season is over. So if you have a representation issue or you need something from the IRS and you feel that you have to deal with a person, do it now. Other than that, it's going to be very, very important to become familiar with the IRS's interactive tools with their document upload tool as opposed to the mailroom, because people from the mailrooms are going to be let go also. So mail is going to be an issue with the IRS. So learning how to get a hold of someone, be able to fax, be able to use the document upload tool, that is going to be very important.
So you're saying fax machines might be having a comeback?
Fax machines may be having a comeback, yes. Who would have
Goodness.
thought it?
Goodness. And so looking at these changes and everything, how do they affect if you're in the current process of, working through current year's returns or amended returns from prior years?
So right now, you can go on the IRS website. They have a website link for processing status for tax returns, and it will give you the estimates. But understand they're saying the IRS says if you have an electronic return or an electronic amend, they're processing those fairly quickly because there's not the human interaction with the processing of the tax returns. Paper returns, however, that is where the processing delays are going to start because most of the people who are in charge of entering paper data into the IRS are typically going to be your newer employees, which are going to be, like the first ones let go. So, for example, I'm just going to read off my screen right now for the 1040 series. Um, if you sent in a paper amend, then, they haven't processed returns that were received after October right now. So, we already have that 4-month delay on a paper filing. For the 1120s, they're back to September of 24. That's the latest paper returns that they have processed. So again, it puts impetus on us to actually use the electronic filing tools that we have and to transmit that information electronically so that things can be a little bit more sped up.
Excellent. Okay. So it basically try to do everything that you can to stay in the digital realm of the IRS along with the correspondence. Is there many interactive digital tools already not there for IRS correspondence, or is there a different thing happening that we could do with IRS correspondence?
So IRS has rolled out their document upload tool, which allows you to upload a PDF, which would include your response, the notice, etc., directly into the IRS computer system. And that has been the feedback that I've been receiving from people who are able to do that, depending upon the notice, depending upon what you have, has been successful. So it really is either that, or if there is a fax number, fax it in, because the IRS basically says for correspondence, they're right now without the layoffs, et cetera, they were 5 months out in processing a regular paper response to a notice. So it really is imperative that you try to use the document upload tools. You try to use anything that's going to get the information in faster because there will be less people to actually go through that documentation.
My goodness. So with these type of delays, these types of push and rollouts that we're seeing, one of the other things that we could see having an issue is attempting to try and get the power of attorney for a client. How is that looking? Are we going to expect similar delays? Or is there a workaround for obtaining the power of attorney for a client?
So one other thing that's thrown a wrench into the whole system as far as trying to get a Form 2848 or a Form 8821 information through the centralized authentication file, the CAF, is that there is a major tax processing firm that is a national firm that has decided that with all of their brand new clients, they're going to file 8821s to obtain transcripts of the last 3 years' tax returns. So a couple weeks ago, they were saying that this national firm was submitting over 30,000 8821s to the IRS each week. So that obviously is going to, and this time of year, the CAF is typically understaffed because all those people have gone to processing. So if you fax in a power of attorney or you fax in an 8821, it's going to take 45 days, maybe a couple months before it actually gets processed because, again, it requires human interaction. If you go to irs.gov/taxpros, there is a place on TaxPros where you can upload that 2848 or you can upload that 8821. That means that the information goes directly to the IRS system as opposed to having to be scanned in like the fax does. It cuts down maybe, but it only will cut down a week or two on the processing time. So the best option is to go into the Tax Pro account, affiliate your CAF with your ID.me, and then you can request a PIN from the IRS in order to affiliate your Tax Pro account with your CAF. If you do that, then you can enter your taxpayers' information, what type of authorization you want, either the 2848 or the 8821, and it will electronically send a request to your taxpayer's individual IRS account. And if the individual approves that request, and I believe they have to approve the request within 24 or 48 hours, then the authorization is immediate. It only takes, another 24 hours to process that authorization. So again, using the IRS computer system, trying to take the human interaction of the IRS representative out, it's going to be faster and allegedly more effective. But yes, if you have a power of attorney, those are being delayed. And a lot of the reason is it's busy season, and the rest of it is this national firm.
Yeah, busy season could definitely add some delays into any part, no matter what's going on, right?
Pretty
So
much.
let's take a turn and kind of look at it there. What would you think would happen, or what would you suppose would happen if they decided that half of all employees of the IRS are terminated?
So basically, if half of the IRS employees are terminated, and to be completely honest with you, what they're saying is that, they're going to do that through normal attrition, normal retirement. At this moment, because we did have a 10 to 15-year hiring freeze at the IRS, the typical IRS employee, I think they said 65% of IRS employees are due to retire in the next 5 years. So we don't really have a backfill of younger IRS employees. So they could just wait for people to retire and get to that figure. So the problem is, what we're going to be facing with the IRS coming forward is that we will have less experienced individuals trying to run the income tax system. There will have to be hard choices made as to whether they're going to man telephones for taxpayer assistance, or whether they're basically going to tell us we're on our own because they need all those people in processing. It's just going to create, especially for your average taxpayer who's used to just walking into their taxpayer assistance center. A lot of those taxpayer assistance centers will be closing, is the plan, and what's under the lease cancellations that I've seen. So it's just going to be harder to get the information that you need in order to fulfill your tax filing responsibilities. My concern is if you do get, and I think there will be more automation, such as the CP 2000 letters. Right now, the CP 2000 letters are supposed to be reviewed by a human before they come out to your taxpayer. I see that interaction again being limited, and we may end up with more CP 2000s that we have to respond to for our clients that are incorrect, or the information was on the tax return, it just wasn't on the line that the IRS computers are looking for. So it'll be a lot on us to figure out, okay, how does the IRS computer system look for this information? Where can we put it so that we can hopefully stave off these incorrect notices?
Wow. Uh, well, that's pretty much all the questions that I've had listed, Terry. Is there anything extra or anything else that you would like to put out for people to know of for the IRS?
Um, the one thing that I'll say, again, just from my interactions is, your typical IRS person is more concerned than you probably are right now, because not only is it their job, a lot of them do believe it is a calling. And so, be kind. It's not their fault that they can't handle your situation. It's not necessarily their fault that you can't get what you want done when you want done. If you're looking at any representation issues, penalty abatement, etc., do your due diligence. Look at the Internal Revenue Manual, the IRM, for that issue, because that tells you exactly what that IRS agent has to do. They don't have a lot of discretion to just be helpful. You need to do your due diligence, figure out, okay, based upon the criteria for this penalty abatement, based upon the criteria for this collection information statement, what do I have to give the IRS in order to get the best response from my taxpayer?
Awesome. And then once more, what can you give me those links one more time just so everybody knows where to go when they're looking for those interactive tools with the IRS for the it was Tax Pros, and then there was another one, right?
Yeah, and that leads into something. So for us, for practitioners, especially if you have a CAF, it's irs.gov/taxpros, or you can just go to irs.gov, and Tax Pros is in the upper right-hand corner of the website. That's the number one. Number two, I know that some of us like checks, but we are actively telling our taxpayers, do not write a check to the IRS. Because again, we have the mailroom issues, we have USPS issues. If you go to irs.gov/payments, you can use direct pay in order to make those payments, or we can schedule payments out of our software when we prepare tax returns. Again, unfortunately, having to move to a much more digital way of interacting because there won't be the human beings to do what they have done in the past. The other thing that we are actively working with our clients on is to sign up for the individual IRS accounts and the business IRS accounts. Because even if we can't get a power of attorney through the CAF, or there's going to be a delay getting the power of attorney through the CAF, then the individual or the business can log on to their own individual accounts. They can go ahead and they can pull the transcripts that we need in order to help them and to represent them. And they can also make payments directly through their individual or their business account. And with the business accounts, you can even make your federal tax deposits through those business accounts with the IRS. So again, it's all about trying to figure out how to work with the IRS where, we're trying to take the human equation out and just deal with their computers.
Rock on. So quick follow-up. Is there any recourse or anything if you made the mistake of sending in a paper check, or if you already sent in a paper return or anything like that? Is there a recourse for that? Is there a game plan that you would suggest to do? Should they change anything, or would it just let it roll and see what happens?
So if you've already submitted something on paper, I would say let it roll, because if you try to do some electronic now, then you're going to have a duplication. But again, a lot of it is procedurally within your firm, within what you tell your clients. These are our recommendations. We don't tell our clients, no, you have to use direct pay. We just tell them, because half the time they're like, I don't want to give the IRS my bank account. Well, what do you think is typed all over the bottom of your check? So anyway, we're trying to really work on our taxpayers, our clients, to unfortunately have to enter this digital realm, because with that many resignations, retirements, etc., it is just going to be harder to get information, to give information, and to get issues resolved with the IRS.
Well, thank you, Terry. I think that covers it pretty well. I'm sure there'd be more to come. So with that being said, everybody, this was Terry Bakker, and I'm Jason Fruits, and from all of us from Tax Speaker, we'll see you again next time.